Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, but when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on the Game and Gig podcast, we are talking about all 3 episodes of the Vader Immortal VR game.
All right, man, so I've been waiting for this conversation. I've actually kind of held off talking to you about this because I know you're a huge Star Wars fan, and I recently played Vader Immortal on VR, and I convinced you to also play it because I figured that you would have some thoughts on it. And, dude, I'm just excited to talk about this game.
Yeah, so you did convince me to play it, and not that I didn't want to play it before, but...
well, because you had already purchased it.
Yeah, I had it. I bought it on sale when I got my Oculus last Christmas.
Right.
I got all 3 episodes, and I had played the Lightsaber Dojo, which we'll talk about later. But I hadn't played the actual story,
Right.
Mainly because VR makes me motion sick really easily.
Which sucks.
Yeah, so I don't really just like dive into it all the time like you do. But, you know, when you asked me to play this game, I was excited, but I did go into it with a little bit of an air of trepidatiousness.
Right.
And the reason I did that is because, as you know, Darth Vader is like my boy. You know, I think he's the greatest movie villain of all time. And he's my favorite Star Wars character of all time. And I love Star Wars, so that's not to be taken lightly.
Right. And as far as I know, this is like canon, too. So this is like serious.
Yeah,
like
this
real.
is serious. It's canon. And, you know, anytime you're messing with the Darth Vader canon, you have the propensity to screw some stuff up. So I was worried.
Right. Okay.
But, you know, just kind of an overview of the story. You know, Vader Immortal, you play as a smuggler.
I guess we should go ahead and say there will be spoilers for Vader Immortal in this podcast.
Oh, yeah. We're going to spoil the whole thing. These came out in like 2019, right? So
I think they came out in... No, man. I think these came
the
out
first
in
one
20...
did.
Okay, maybe the most recent one came out in 2021. So it's been a couple years, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to spoil the whole thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, Vader Immortal, you know, you play as a smuggler. You get kind of like tractor beamed in by the Empire. You get taken to Mustafar. And you get wrapped up in this scheme by Vader. You know, Vader's main motivation, he only has 2 motivations in life. You know, that's kill Obi-Wan Kenobi and resurrect his wife. So you're trying to help him resurrect his wife, basically.
Right.
And it takes place between episodes 3 and 4. So this is like between the prequels and the original trilogy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it actually, as far as I can tell, I think it takes place not long after he builds his castle on Mustafar.
I could see the paint wasn't fully dried yet.
No, paint was not fully dried. And like you said, it is canon, and there's actually a little bit of a comic tie-in. So I've read some of the comics, and I've also just watched a lot of YouTube videos breaking them down in extremely nerdy fashion.
Okay.
And there's a comic that does detail building Vader's castle. And the reason he builds it there is because Mustafar is like, you know, it's like a nexus of dark side energy. It's like supposed to be really powerful on the dark side. And he is working with this like Sith spirit kind of thing of a dead Sith Lord named Darth Momin. And Momin's kind of manipulating him because he knows there's like this portal underneath Mustafar, like underneath the castle, basically. And he tries to go into this alternate dimension and bring Padme back. And this happens before Immortal. But I think Immortal kind of calls back to that because he's basically trying to do the same thing.
Right.
You know, he's still just trying to go into some sort of weird world between worlds and bring Padme back.
And so that kind of brings us into episode 1, which kind of introduces basically what you've just said there.
Yeah.
So as you go in, you kind of end up... The first episode really makes everything seem like, well, you're there, and then you kind of end up teaming up with Vader. Like,
yeah.
This is like Vader kind of takes you underneath his wing and is like, hey, you're going to help me accomplish my goal. Now, it's not like you're actually buddies because he's just using you.
Yeah.
But still, though.
You're the closest thing to a buddy Vader ever had. I mean, and you do at the end, like you said, you do basically team up with him and you fight some enemies like, you know, back to back with Darth Vader. And that was like the coolest thing ever.
Right.
And I think I told you, I kept taking hits because I was trying to keep Vader in frame because I wanted to see what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because I knew whatever I was doing wasn't going to be as BA as what he was doing. You know, so I kept getting hit because I'd be like, oh, what's Darth Vader doing? You know?
Right.
And I I just thought that was so cool. And then it ends, and I was like, oh my God, I'm motion sick, but I do want to play part 2.
So, anything else from episode 1 that you thought was noteworthy?
Going beneath the castle and just going into like the caverns on Mustafar is cool, and meeting some of like, I guess you would call them the locals, the Mustafarians.
Right.
That's neat because, you really don't see that in any
Yeah, I
of
would
the
say that's something
movies
that you don't really get to see in other stuff.
Yeah, but other than that, I really thought part 1 just kind of set up what was going to come. I mean, the most noteworthy thing for me was just teaming up with Vader and at least getting a lightsaber.
Right.
And I will say that the lightsaber was so cool that I didn't even think about the fact that I wasn't using the Force. And then at the end of part 1, he was like, I'm going to teach you the Force. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to teach me the Force? I forgot about the Force. So that was really cool.
So that brings us into episode 2. And episode 2 pretty much immediately starts with a curveball, essentially saying like, hey, turns out you're not going to work with Vader, but you're going to try to betray Vader and stop his plan. Like that happens pretty much at the very beginning of episode 2.
Never a good idea. I mean, I wish it had been a Goosebumps novel and I could have chosen my own path, because I would have went full Sith on it. Vader would have Padme back if it was up to me. But yeah, it does that. But he does teach you to use the Force.
That's true.
And the extent of it is really like force pull, force. It's not even force. I mean, it is force pull, but it's just
like grab and then like
throw.
move it forward, back, and that's about it.
Grab and throw. Did you ever throw your lightsaber?
I never threw my lightsaber. Is that something you can do?
I don't know if you can do it in the main story, but you can do it in the dojo.
Oh, I never did it. I never did it at all.
It was so cool, dude. It's so awesome. And you can, I'm jumping ahead here, but you can dual wield in the dojo. And so basically it got to the point where I was just throwing in like succession. One would come back and I'd throw the other one. It was crazy. It was so cool.
No, if you can do that in the main campaign, I never did it.
I kind of don't think you can.
Well, so also in episode 2, you get a different lightsaber.
You do, and it's not even a lightsaber. They call it a light sword, I think they call it, because it's supposed to be like an ancient, I guess you could call it like a blueprint or a prototype, of a lightsaber. It's basically the same thing. It does have a kyber crystal in it, but it's got this like ornate hilt, and
it also has some like, I don't know. Full disclosure, guys, I'm not a Star Wars guy. I don't know any of the terms. So
he don't know nothing.
I don't know anything. I am a casual at best. So it's also got all this kind of like crazy electricity, staticky stuff that most lightsabers don't normally have. So,
yeah, that was cool. When you activate it, it's like delayed, and you can like see like electricity shoot out of it, and then it ignites. And
I thought that was cool.
I did too.
I had a lot of fun. I thought it just was really cool.
Well, it's really similar to Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
Yeah, I guess so, because he had, I guess Kylo Ren had the damaged.
Well, it was like it's like unstable or something. It's like based on an ancient Sith lightsaber model, and that's why it looks that way.
Yeah,
and it does look cool, although it is stupid because it's from the sequels.
but this new lightsaber you get, and we'll call it a lightsaber. No, it's not technically.
Yeah,
was cool. I thought it was really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole the whole crux of the story is that this lady named Lady Corvax used this thing in Mustafar to try to revive her dead husband. And her dead husband is who owned the light sword that you get.
Oh, okay.
So that's
I
why.
remember, yeah.
Yeah. And he is actually, this is a big spoiler, of course, but there's this character that kind of comes in and out, and he's called the Black Bishop. But eventually in episode 3, I think it gets revealed that he's the male Corvax, like the lady's husband or whatever. So anyway, it was his, lightsaber. But yeah, that was cool.
Episode 2 didn't really have anything. The big ending for episode 2 is you fought this big monster thing. What kind of monster was that?
Big monster thing.
I don't know. What is
big monster. It's a Rancor, Randy.
I don't know what a Rancor is.
You remember in Return of the Jedi, Jabba has one under his throne room. It's that big monster.
Okay.
That Luke fights.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't know what it was called.
And if you remember,
I didn't even remember that was the same type of monster, man.
Oh, it's the same monster. Okay. So Luke kills a Rancor, and then there's this like guard in Jabba's palace who like starts crying, and that was just put in there to be funny. But then later, if you watch the Book of Boba Fett, you get some background on Rancors, and they're actually very gentle creatures.
Well, in this game, you kill one.
Yes, and I enjoyed that. Yeah, I was all about that. I thought it was really cool.
You get to use the Force, and you kind of throw rocks at it and stuff. You really, that's about it, don't you? Don't you
Well,
see-
it reaches for you and you stab it, and like one time it went to step on you and you stabbed it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but mostly it was just throw rocks at it.
Yeah, I threw a lot of rocks. Threw a lot of rocks.
But I thought episode 2 was, in my opinion, it wasn't like it was the middle of the story. So it didn't have the like grab you at the beginning. It didn't have, a big climax or anything. It was just kind of an in-betweener. And so there's a lot of forgetful stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff you could forget about episode 2. It was in between.
Well, I mean, it leaned really heavy on the Force at first, which was cool.
Right.
I mean, it may be episode 3 actually, when you first fight stormtroopers.
I remember that in episode 3. You might do a little bit in episode 2.
Yeah. I don't think you do, because in episode 2, you kill the Rancor, and basically it ends with them saying, like, you got to go mess up Vader. And you're, like, way down below Mustafar's surface,
Right.
so there ain't no stormtroopers down there. So I think that's going to come in episode 3. And episode 3 was by far my favorite.
Me too.
Yeah, and I mean, it sets up, like, you got to go beat Vader, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get to duel Darth Vader? And I knew, this is where I started to get worried, because I was like, if I win this fight with Darth Vader, I got a big problem with this.
Right. And you said this to me, we were talking about this game before you played episode 3. We were talking about it, and you were saying, like, we were talking about Jedi Fallen Order, and you mentioned that one of the things that you really liked about Jedi Fallen Order was that the encounter with Vader was so accurate, because you just had to run from Vader because there was no chance. And
you spend the whole game like getting more and more powerful until you can finally beat this Inquisitor, and you think you're so cool, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the real guy shows up.
And you just got to run.
Yeah.
And so in this, you do at the very end, again, spoilers, but of course the game ends with a big duel with Vader.
Yeah, and it was cool.
Yeah. I thought the actual like battle mechanism was kind of lame. Like,
I mean,
Vader didn't seem that cool in his moves, because they have to be telegraphed so you can block and
They have
stuff.
to be telegraphed. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it wasn't like it was like, I didn't feel like completely overwhelmed.
No.
But again, with spoilers here, you don't stand a chance against Vader. He's gonna beat you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't get overwhelmed in the actual lightsaber fight, but then at some point you like get to a phase and he just, force chokes you and throws your lightsaber and it's over.
Right. There's nothing you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it really to me wasn't about making the fights hard. And I think that would have been frustrating. Like, it was just about being immersed and just being face to face with Darth Vader, which was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I was worried that they would let you win, and I was glad that they didn't. But they also didn't make you just like get slaughtered.
Yeah, they gave you a chance to at least try.
Well, I mean, they made you like accomplish your goal.
Right.
Because Vader can't actually get this Bright Star thing and revive Padme, or the movies are invalidated.
Yeah.
So
it can't mess up the story.
Yeah, and that's where your Black Bishop guy comes back in and he freezes time and you destroy the Bright Star and there you go, right?
Right.
Vader still wins. You still, accomplish your objective. Effectively, the story hasn't changed.
Right. Nothing's really changed. This is a story that doesn't affect like the overall canon story in any way.
Right. It apparently is canon, but it doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't change anything.
And that's the challenge, I think, with games like this is like you can't change anything because the story's already over.
Right. So you have to write something that is going to be inevitably inconsequential.
Yes. And there's so much now because you've got like Rebels, you've got the Clone Wars, the animated shows, and then you've got the prequels, the original trilogy. I don't care if you screw up the sequels, but it's just a lot, and Vader's been present in a lot of things. So
yeah. So story-wise, were you happy with the story that was presented in Vader Immortal?
Yeah, I was happy with it. I mean, it was vague. Like, I had to do some research to kind of remember that comic tie-in, and I still have no idea who you are, and I don't think you're ever going to find out. I don't think
you
it
just
matters.
play as a nobody, right?
Yeah, you're just a nobody.
Who has some Force abilities. Now, the fact that you're able to control and work with the Force so quickly, is that like...
Oh, I mean, it's stupid. It's just video game logic.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're apparently a descendant of this Corvax line.
Right, you're like the last one of that bloodline, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're chosen by Vader, because he's been looking for someone that's part of this bloodline so that he can conduct this ritual and bring back Padme.
Yeah. So that was cool at the beginning. He like has you in an interrogation room and he's like, activate this thing, and it kind of looked like a holocron. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was actually a Jedi holocron, but you like touch it, and I mean, at that point, I was like fully immersed because it just looks so cool in the VR.
So now that we've talked about the storyline and kind of the story beats, let's talk about the actual gameplay, because this is something that, I have a little more to say about, because I have played a fair amount of VR games, and I have some thoughts on how this works as a VR experience. Mm-hmm. So first of all, movement. Now, movement in this game, I played it on PSVR, you played it on Oculus, and on the PSVR version, you move through the very traditional teleport method, where you basically, I don't know how this worked with you, but I'll tell you how it worked with PSVR. You have, from your body, there is a little like teleport warp location. You press a button and you warp there. Mm-hmm. Is that the way it worked for you as well? Same exact thing?
You use the joystick to select where to teleport to.
But. Oh, okay. Well, and on PSVR, you press down a button and then you just wave the wand around to select your location and then choose. And then when you release it, you go. Mm-hmm. Which that's very normal for a lot of VR games. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite way of movement. My favorite movement is just like where you normally move around. But here's the problem with that. When you just do like traditional movement in a VR game, a lot of people get very, very motion sick. Mm-hmm. And I am not very susceptible to motion sickness. There are a few VR titles that have given me a little bit of motion sickness, but this one I got zero motion sickness. But now you out, on the other hand, had some motion sickness.
I was doing great. And then about halfway through episode 1, they make you climb a ladder. And as soon as I went about 3 rungs up that ladder, I was like, oh, there we go. And it makes you climb a lot. And by the end of it, I was like exhausted. I was just fighting off nausea. It was bad. But as I went into episode 2, I realized there was a setting at the beginning I could click to make it more like friendly for motion sickness. And it specifically mentioned one of the things it removes is the climbing. And then I never got any more motion sickness.
Right, because if you're just warping, that isn't going to cause motion sickness. Mm-hmm. The only things that cause motion sickness that I'm aware of is when you're moving through space, but your body's not. So that like disconnect causes like some motion sickness.
And there was a sequence like that in episode 3 where you're on this like minecart kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and you're traveling up through.
And you're fighting all these stormtroopers, and that didn't make me sick. I don't know. It was really cool. I just thought that was a cool sequence. Yeah. That's also where I found out you can take their blasters. Did you ever do that?
Oh, yeah, I did a lot.
So cool.
The problem I have with that, moving ahead here, there are these sequences where you can grab enemy blasters and then use it to shoot back on. Problem I have with that is the aiming in the game was so bad. It was so hard to aim.
It was very bad.
And most VR shooters are hard to aim, but most of them do it better than Vader Immortal. Vader Immortal was the worst game that here's the thing, it wasn't trying to be a shooter, it just had that as an aspect. So I understand they didn't put a whole lot of time into making that great, and it wasn't great.
Well, you got to remember, who are you stealing these guns from?
Your stormtroopers.
And Randy, stormtroopers don't hit nothing.
That's true.
So it's probably just a function of the gun itself.
I didn't realize they're just trying to be canonically accurate.
Exactly. Now, clones, if you were stealing a gun from a clone, I bet you it would be pinpoint accurate. Right. But a stormtrooper, no. I mean, the fact that I ever hit anybody was honestly one of the issues I had with the game.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And here's another issue I had with that is that the majority of the time I was doing these fights, I had my lightsaber in my right hand because I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
And I would steal, and I would have the gun in my left hand. Mm-hmm. And it was bad at aiming, and then I was also trying to shoot with my left hand.
Did you ever put your lightsaber on your belt and just take 2 guns?
No,
and just
never
spray
did
and pray? I did that.
I had a problem where for some reason in episode 3, I could not get my lightsaber to go back to my hip.
That was pretty clunky.
Yeah.
The lightsaber to the hip thing was pretty clunky. I had to look it into the hip. I couldn't just do it.
I couldn't do it. Even looking at it, I'd sit there and I'd just over and over and over. Huh. It would not go.
That's weird.
I don't know what was up with it.
I wish they had made it so that you could just drop it and it would go there, and then you could force pull it to your hand. That would have been better.
There are, I think about other games that use weapons and stuff. I think of Resident Evil 4 VR. Mm-hmm. In that game, if you drop a weapon, it just goes automatically back to you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's what it should have done.
That's what it should have done.
Yeah. Because you actually couldn't drop it.
No.
You had to put it on your belt. And then the dojo you can throw, but I have to go back and play it. I wonder if you can throw in the game.
I don't know. I never tried that, and it wouldn't even let me let go of my lightsaber to put it on my hip. So I really doubt it would let me throw it.
Yeah,
But maybe
you have to go. You have to go to that dojo and try that out because it was very fun.
I only did the dojo on episode 1. Before I did anything, before I got in the game, I did a little bit of the dojo just to try it out, and then I played the full game.
Does episode 1's dojo even let you use the Force? I bet it
No.
doesn't. Yeah, so you should do episode 3.
Episode 1's dojo is all about blocking, just using the lightsaber, and then also like redirecting like blaster shots, and that's it.
Yeah, episode 3 is everything.
Oh yeah.
So you have the Force. You can even do Force lightning.
Ooh, that's not in the game.
Yeah. You like earn it through a power up. It's like if you kill enough things quickly enough,
you get Force.
You'll
lightning.
just like start doing Force lightning. It's crazy.
So did you find? One of my favorite things about Vader Immortal was that I was just in the Star Wars universe. I'm not even a big fan, but I just thought it was cool to like be in the world.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. There's another Star Wars VR game, Squadrons.
Yeah.
And I had the same thought about that one. It was just cool to be in the atmosphere.
I might need to play that one.
Yeah, I'll have to check and see. I may have a physical disc, but it's VR, and I don't know that it's. You have to check and see if you have. I'm not sure that it's on Quest. It may be.
It may not be on Quest.
It may be. I have it on. I played it on PSVR.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It was cool to just be in the universe, and honestly, the VR never took me out of it.
Okay, yeah.
And especially once I stopped getting made to be sick.
Right. See, I usually, when I'm playing VR stuff, I usually say, give me the full experience. I'm not going to get motion sick. I like it all.
I think there was a couple things that I missed out on because of that setting, though. Like, there's a couple times you get, like, thrown. I think it would just black me out during that part.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it because I didn't get sick.
Right. So you had better. After episode 1, you moved into it and you were good. So one thing we have to draw the parallels here between this game, because it very prominently uses a lightsaber, and then something like Beat Saber.
Yeah.
So what did you think? Have you played Beat Saber?
Yeah, I played it at your house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Beat Saber is awesome.
Yeah,
and I need to get it.
Yeah,
but I don't have.
Man, so much fun.
I would say, like, if you have a VR headset and you don't have Beat Saber, you're doing it wrong. And so I think I'm doing it wrong. Because Beat Saber is great. But, I mean, that's a completely different kind of game. I mean,
well, yeah, but still using the lightsaber.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool in Beat Saber. I'm sure the first thing I did when I started playing Beat Saber was like, I probably made some lightsaber sounds. So, but this game makes the sounds for you.
Yes, it does.
So I don't know. I enjoyed this more than Beat Saber just because I'm such a Star Wars nerd.
Right.
But Beat Saber's great. It's probably a better game. Beat Saber is pretty polished from what I experienced.
Yeah. So I mean, like, this Vader Immortal thing, it leans very heavy on being a Star Wars IP game. That's what it is, and it's like that is really what you're getting out of it.
It's a story.
It's a story, and it's in the Star Wars universe, and like that's just what it's all about.
Yeah.
The actual moment-to-moment gameplay it's good, but it's not great.
Yeah. It's cool, but it's not great.
Yeah, there are much better, like, if you want to play, like, really good VR games, like Half-Life Alyx is, like it kicks this one in the pants. You know what I mean? But that being said, VR games you have to scale them differently than your regular games because it's a different experience.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not, if you try to compare it to other video games, like, the VR stuff is just different. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've never knocked over 2 mic stands and a tripod playing a traditional game. But I played Vader Immortal in this room, and after I finished episode 3, I had knocked over both mic stands and that tripod.
So overall, your experience, like, did you rate this game? Like, what would you give it?
I haven't rated it officially on my app yet, but I really enjoyed it. Probably an 8.
An 8 out of 10?
Probably an 8 out of 10. Yeah. And that's just as a whole, all 3 episodes. I would say it's one game. That's kind of how I've been
Yeah, I
thinking
mean,
of it.
like, here's like kind of thinking here, like, one of my big problems I have with this game is that it's each episode is very short, and they sell them as individual things, but really it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, the game is not one episode on its own. All three of them would be very unsatisfying. It doesn't matter which one you pick.
Yeah.
You really have to experience this as one whole game. You
Yes.
play it 1, 2, 3. That's just the way it should work.
Agreed. But I will say that Lightsaber Dojo does give you some replayability.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, but I only did episode 1. I need to go back and do
Yeah.
episode 3.
It's really fun in 3. I'll probably do it again.
Yeah.
I say I'll probably do it 1 or 2 more times, and then I'll get tired of it.
Yeah.
But I did it for I beat episode 3, and then I did the dojo for like an hour. So, I mean, that's a long time for me to spend in VR.
Oh man, yeah, that's a long time.
And you can get all the characters' lightsabers. I didn't even know that.
From all the different
You
movies?
can get like all the different versions of Obi-Wan's lightsaber. You can get like Count Dooku's lightsaber. You can get them all. You can get Darth Vader's lightsaber, Luke's. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can get Ahsoka's lightsabers, and if you know who Ahsoka is, which you don't, she has 2 lightsabers, and she holds one of them backwards. You can get those. And I don't have them yet, and I probably never will. But I watched a YouTube video of a guy who did.
That's pretty cool.
That is really
So
cool.
that's where like because replaying the campaign probably wouldn't be as much fun.
No, I don't see any reason to do that.
Because like I said, this is about the experience. Because the puzzles weren't that great. There were a
Puzzles.
lot of I say puzzles, right? I mean, like little things where there was like a lot of stuff. Like this is a very VR thing to do. Like in order to get to this door, you got to like pull this thing and twist this thing and pull this knob. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that.
There is.
Like, and that's just like
Mainly in episode 1.
that's just like interacting with the environment around
Yeah.
you, which
I mean, that's it's a novelty, you know.
yeah, it's just like that's cool if like it's your first time playing a VR game. But if you've played a bunch of VR games, it's not so cool.
Yeah. Now, I will say it was at the beginning and the end. It makes you like push a lever forward and like jump into hyperspace from the cockpit of this ship.
Yeah,
That hit me right in the feels. Both times.
both times. So what do you think? Like, if you were telling someone about this, would you say should you play it? Should people play this game?
If you like Star Wars at all, I would say yes. And if you grew up like me, wishing you had a lightsaber, yes, because you'll get one.
Is it worth what does it cost? Like, what does this game cost right now if you were to buy it full price? Because
I can look that up.
you bought it on sale for when it was like way cheap.
Yeah.
I rented it through GameFly, so you and I we didn't have much skin in the game, so that that does sway my opinion somewhat.
Yeah.
So I want to know how much like a full on like buying Vader Immortal. How much does this thing cost? Boop a doop a doo, looking for the prices.
I'm thinking it looks like you can get a bundle with all 3 episodes for $30.
So $10 each.
That's not bad.
And each episode lasts roughly 30 to 40 minutes.
Yes. So you're looking at like,
2 hours max.
Yeah. 2 hours max. Plus the dojo, which is the coolest part, maybe, from a gameplay perspective. Just saying. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a Star Wars nerd like me, yes, I would say it's worth $30.
Right.
If you're not, maybe not. I mean, you've played a lot more VR games than I have, so you know where it kind of stacks up.
In terms of like overall VR games, it's good. It's a good experience. It's high quality in terms of like the environment and graphics are pretty good. It's not got too much jank. It does have a little bit of jank. Specifically when like climbing ladders and stuff. I got stuck a couple times on in the environment and like that happened to me once or twice.
I got stuck in the environment once.
Right. So I mean like there's that a little bit of jank is going to come with some VR games. Overall, I would say that for me, this is a 7 out of 10 game. It's good. It's not great, but I did enjoy it for what it was. And for $30, I'd say if you're not a big Star Wars fan, wait for a sale. Because I do think it is worth experiencing, even if you're not a big Star Wars fan, because I'm not, and I still enjoyed the game. I'd say for me, $20 would be the most I'd want to spend on it.
Yeah, I could see that. I
Get
think
it on sale.
my personal bias probably is worth $10.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the game. I
mean,
really did.
What other game can you like deflect stormtrooper blaster fire back with a lightsaber? Like you just can't get that experience everywhere, guys.
No, you can't. That's true. That's why I really wanted you to play it, because I knew that I had a suspicion that you would enjoy it.
I know that I was being such a nerd when I was playing it too. Like, because one thing that's cool about the Oculus, and I guess you can do this on PSVR as well, is you can like really manipulate your hands quite well. You know, like you can make a fist, and you can. I find myself walking around like this quite a bit.
Pointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things in episode 3. The whole time, every time something come around, I just point at somebody.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was hilarious. I had gameplay footage, and I just was having so much fun pointing at everybody.
Yeah, I was going around because Vader's thing is like he force chokes and then he like makes a fist.
Yeah.
I was doing that. Like I was just basically role playing as Vader.
Yeah.
And I'd have one stormtrooper like held up in the air, and I'd like deflect the blaster fire back, and then I'd like throw him at his buddy, and I was just getting my inner Sith Lord out.
But another piece of advice I'd have for people on this one is don't buy the individual episodes. Just buy it as a whole, because the individual episodes, it's obvious that it's meant to be one story. I don't understand why they've broken it up, besides thinking that maybe people wouldn't buy the full thing, so they're trying to like hook you. I don't know. This episodic thing, they were able to release it over time. I don't know the reason why. Maybe it was a development thing. But
or a cash grab.
But buy the whole thing. If you're going to buy it, go all in, because you're going to want to see it through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would not be satisfying to play like episode 1 and quit.
No.
That would not be satisfying.
And especially wouldn't be satisfying to like play only episode 2.
No.
Which
if you were only going to play 1, 3 would definitely be the one to do it with.
Right, yeah. I had a student I was talking to about this game, and he said, "Oh, I didn't really like it much." And I was like, "Really? Did you play the whole thing?" He said, "No, I only had a little bit of money, so I bought episode 2, and I didn't really like it."
Oh man, kids these days.
What are you doing?
Didn't even start at the beginning.
Nope, bought episode 2.
Didn't start at the beginning and didn't buy the conclusion. Like that doesn't make any sense.
And it could have been that he did that when episode 3 wasn't out yet.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
So we did a poll, and we actually are going to do something different. I'm so glad that when you were putting this together, you thought the same thing I did, which was do both of the Star Wars polls.
Because we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one we had was, which Star Wars VR game has the better concept? And that is Vader Immortal or Star Wars Squadrons. And Daniel, you did not get the results.
No, I didn't.
In our thing here.
I didn't get the results.
While you're pulling up the results, I can say that Vader Immortal and Star Wars Squadrons have very different concepts. Vader Immortal is obviously it's lightsaber, you're using the Force, it's first person, it's action combat based. Star Wars Squadrons is a cockpit based fighting, like essentially a dogfighting in space. So they're very different concepts, and they are completely different. So what was our results on this?
So 39% of people said Vader Immortal, and 61% said Squadrons.
Okay. I mean, I think, and you notice here, the question was phrased not as like, have you played this? It's just like, which one do you think has the better concept? To me, if I played them both, and I can tell you that personally, I liked Vader Immortal much more than Squadrons. Squadrons got old really fast to me, and I really love dogfighting.
Yeah.
So, but both of them were very immersive in terms of getting you into the universe. Squadrons maybe even more so than Vader Immortal, but I just didn't really like the gameplay of Squadrons a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense to me to have like a cockpit-based fighter, in VR. That seems like a good idea. But to me, like VR is made for a lightsaber. Come on,
right? Yeah,
you got to go with Vader Immortal.
I don't know if I hadn't played them, I may have voted for Squadrons as being the better concept. But I can tell you that Squadrons, you want to talk about a game that's going to make you motion sick. Squadrons is going to be the game.
Maybe I may not be able to
because you're moving through space and stuff. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Vader Immortal at least has some options. I'm sure Squadrons maybe has some options too, but I didn't really care for it. In fact, I didn't finish Squadrons. I gave up on it about halfway through. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea.
My cup of tea, yeah. But longtime commenter Heather Cook said, I love them both, but cockpit-based VR experiences are just better with our current motion tracking and controller technology. So, I mean,
Yeah, I see where
I
she's
think it
coming from.
depends on where you're playing them because I would like the controller on the Quest 2 is so much better than the PSVR
Oh,
controllers.
it's a great controller.
Yeah, it's an awesome controller. So like it probably depends on where you're playing it, and what type of motion tracking you're using because the Quest 2 uses camera tracking, whereas it has cameras built into the headset, whereas PSVR uses an external camera and it's tracking the light on the both on the headset and on the controllers. So it's a very different. They're two completely different concepts in terms of for motion tracking. So it really depends on where you play them.
Yeah. The Oculus, I mean, even has some settings where you can put the controllers down.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
it can track your hands.
track your
Yeah,
hands.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I played like a demo game where it was using that, and it was just having you do a variety of little tasks, with your hands, and it was crazy how well it did.
Yeah, I haven't done one of those yet, but I really want to try it.
Yeah.
So, but we also had another poll,
Yeah, and this one, I'm also pumped about. It said, "Are you excited about Star Wars Jedi Survivor?"
which is the sequel to Fallen Order.
Yes. And 42% said yes, 17% said no, and 40% don't even know what it is.
I mean, don't even know what it is.
So that hurt my ego just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to say when I'm writing these polls, I always like to give the option of like, you just don't know even what I'm talking about, because I don't want to exclude you,
Right.
And I get it, like not everyone follows all gaming, but for those who don't know, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is the sequel to Fallen Order, which came out in 2018, I'm going to guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
2019? When did Fallen Order come out? But Fallen Order was a good game at first when it first
19.
came. 2019. At first when it came out, it apparently had a ton of bugs and it was real janky. I played it like a year after it came out and I didn't have any issues with it.
I played it pretty soon after it came out, if I remember right, and I didn't have any issues.
I don't know. I think some of that stuff is so overblown.
Yeah. Definitely.
It really bothers me
I
sometimes.
thought it was a great game.
When like I hear people complaining about the game's just filled with bugs and glitches, and I'm like, I didn't experience any of that. Like people were saying that about Horizon Forbidden West, and I played that whole game like on launch. I bought that game, played the whole thing. I never experienced anything that was like weird. I mean, like all games have a little bit of bugs, right? Not all, but like a little bit is okay.
I mean, we can't treat every game. We can't treat every game like a Bethesda RPG. They just don't all have that many bugs.
They just don't. But the thing is, I don't know if like people are just like uber sensitive to that kind of stuff, or that it's just like an easy thing to like complain about. I don't know.
Well, they did beef up Fallen Order after I played it. They added a bunch of stuff. So I know they fixed some things and made some things better, but if you haven't played it, go play it. Especially if you like parry-based combat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Again, it was another one that I thought was pretty good. Not amazing, but good enough where I'm excited about the sequel. I will play the sequel.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So interesting that almost half people don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But we got about half who are excited about it too. So
Yeah, I mean, it was overwhelmingly people more excited than not
Right.
of the people who knew. So, I mean, it was a good game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no doubt. It was
Definitely.
a good game. It's kind of EA's like return to proving that they can make a decent Star Wars game that doesn't just try to milk you for every penny you ever made.
there were no microtransactions.
None. You just played the game.
Yeah.
And you could get a bunch of lightsaber colors in that game too.
Yeah, there were tons of customization in that.
Yeah.
So-
Ponchos on ponchos.
Yeah, ponchos. It was like I felt like I was playing Red Dead 1.
Yeah.
Custom ponchos. So, Daniel, we know that this week that you've been playing Vader Immortal.
Yep.
But what other games have you been playing this week?
Well, you walked in on me playing a game today.
I feel like I always walk in on you playing this game.
Yeah, you do. And that's Smash. Still working on my Pikachu man. I can't tell you if it's going well or not anymore. I was starting to get really confident, and then the internet kind of checked my ego. So, I don't know. But I'm playing Smash. Still playing Triangle Strategy, getting pretty close to the end, I think. Probably finish that this week, if I had to guess. And then this week, besides those two, probably just some Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
and I'm really pumped to play Sea of Thieves later. I'm currently working on transitioning from controller to mouse and keyboard. So all you, PC Master Race members out there, I'm finally trying to join you properly. That is. So that's my current project, and it's going. It's been hard.
Yeah. I mean, moving to mouse and keyboard it's not easy if you've not done it.
No, and I've never done it.
No, I can't imagine it's easy. Well, that sounds like you've had a good week. I've been playing. I finished Death Stranding this week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You gave that one to me.
I did let you borrow it.
Yep.
And we'll see how that goes for you. But, I'll save my thoughts for once Daniel's played it a little
bit. I'm going to start it this week.
And then
I'm excited.
I don't remember if I played. No, I started. Yes, I did finish also Vader Immortal this week.
Mm-hmm.
But primarily this week has been dedicated to Alan Wake, the remaster of Alan Wake. And this is a game that I went into completely blind, had no idea anything about it, didn't even know what type of game it was. All I knew is that it was vaguely a horror game.
Which is all you needed to know.
But now I can tell you exactly what it is. It is grown-up Luigi's Mansion. It's basically Luigi's Mansion, but adultified. And essentially you have these enemies, not like Triple X Luigi's Mansion. I mean, like...
I wasn't thinking that. You were thinking that. I was thinking of something else funny.
So you have a flashlight, and you have... you shine it at these spirits, and then they become vulnerable, and then once they're vulnerable, you shoot them.
Cool.
So, that's the main gameplay. That's the main game. I mean, there's obviously story and stuff, but that's the main loop.
They're making a new one of those games, right?
Yeah, which is what inspired me to play this one, because Alan Wake 2 is coming down the pipeline eventually. And I thought, well, I've always been interested in the game, so why not? There's a remaster. This is the PS5 version.
Nice.
It has some great DualSense implementation.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
I'm excited about that from Death Stranding.
Yes, which also has some really cool DualSense stuff. I always like it when games do that. And then Catherine and I are still very, very into Stardew Valley.
Nice. That's a game I kind of want to jump into too.
Dude, so much fun.
I got to do Speak of the Devil.
Is Catherine calling me?
Yeah.
Well, you want to go ahead and just end the podcast here? And
sure.
I'll talk to her?
Or you could put her on speakerphone and tell her to help us sign off.
Oh, I probably shouldn't do that. Well, all right, guys. Until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out, and may the force be with you.